Up on Mount Silver, Gold trekked to the summit to have his duel with Red. This was generally regarded as the toughest fight Gold would have. After all, Red was the Pokemon League champion of Kanto. He had devoted himself on to holding his title as well, since he isolated himself from humans. Gold beat Red after a long and hard fight. It had lived up to their expectations anyway. Red was worthy of a fight. The legend has it that regardless of the shown through, their Pokemon engaged with each other. Gold revered Red as a legend. After he had won, he was happy that he managed to brave the mountain just to fight this fight. His journey had now come to a decisive end. He didn't truly realize what he went through. Gold had happily picked up his Cyndaquil, hugged it for a job well done. He turned it to his back as Red did. He didn't mean to be rude. He was just happy. He didn't hear Red mumble, "Now you are trapped here." Gold thought he heard Red say something. It wasn't clear enough to decisively say what he heard. He turned around mid-sentence. "What did you say, Red?" He noticed Red disappeared from sight. Gold had just figured that Red had just skipped out to take a break somewhere. He smiled happily and walked back down the way he came, contented and singing happily to himself. He traversed back and through the cave the way he came through. They seemed to have been barren and dark now. There were Pokemon which caused him to get in trouble to get to Red. They'd all decided to take a break as well. It seemed odd. It didn't kill Gold's kiddish joy as he skipped through the tunnels with his Cyndaquil clutched tight to his chest. His happiness eventually proved to get the better of him. The caves grew progressively darker and darker until the only light emanating from the caves was that out of Cyndaquil. Gold never stopped to question why, or even pondered what Red could have said. Eventually, with all this skipping in the dark, he was going to fall, and fall he did. He managed to trip onto a hole and fall for what seemed like an eternity to him. He managed to spin around mid-fight and land on his back. He hit the ground with a large thud and echoed off into the arsenic cave system. He hurt to say the least. He had felt like he'd broken his spine, so he put that idea to rest when he got up slowly to his feet. Still, he felt the pain though, it was for sure. He couldn't see anything, not even the Cyndaquil could light up the darkness. It was everywhere. He had wandered through the cave. He'd never been there. Generally, he didn't even know where he was supposed to know if he'd been there before. He knew he'd never fallen down through a hole. That was for certain. As he continued on for minutes, hours, he didn't actually know how long he spent in the tunnel system. He felt like he was going the right way. Paranoia was bound to kick in. Darkness generally helped light that speed along. He constantly thought he saw a faint outline of someone in front of him, beckoning him for him to follow speed. He couldn't make them out enough to tell if he knew them or not. He went on to faith to show them out of his way so he could brag about defeating Red. It led him somewhere into what seemed like an everlasting darkness. "This way, Gold. Follow me, Gold. You'll be fine. Just hold on." He started hearing voices as he walked. He didn't understand who it was. The person now seemed more real. Yeah, they were. They must be if they're trying to talk to him. He ran instead of scarily trying to walk. "Hey, wait up then! Who are you?" His voice retained his childish nature, despite being lost in the tunnels. His Cyndaquil, on the other hand, he had never once paid attention to the light, slowly dragging from its body. He was too overcome with paranoia to believe in this mirage was true. He hadn't focused on the fact that his Pokemon was dying. The light from the poor creature's body eventually faded. Gold even forgot what he even was holding after that. He got too caught up in chasing the person. He realized that he couldn't run fast while carrying it, so he dropped it and ran. Not once did he think about his despicable thing he did. He didn't even understand what he had done. He wanted to get out. He started laughing to himself happily as the voice beckoned him further into the darkness. "Gold, this way." "You're almost there, Gold. I could see it through the sunlight." After hours of running, it started to show that Gold was growing tired and weak. He hadn't had the food to eat or the liquids to drink to sustain his endurance. He restored after a while, crawling on his hands and knees, Wizard still laughing to himself loudly. The tunnels resonated with the laughter. The terrain became more sharp and rocky as progressed. He punctured his skin in several places as his hands or knees. Some were sharp enough to leave deep scars up in his entire leg, ripping off articles of clothing like knife through a hot butter. But even as Gold bled, he continued to laugh excessively loud. "I'm going to go home. I beat Red. I'm the best." His body couldn't last. His stamina was gone. He couldn't endure. Eventually, he had to stop. He laid on the ground, against the sharp objects as they embedded into his skin, seemingly becoming a great part of him. His blood oozed across the floor, sustaining it. Gold still laughed loudly while he talked to himself. "I'm gonna make it! I did it! I beat everyone!" "No, Gold. You're not. Gold. Gold. Gold, you're ours now. Gold, you're dying." He wasn't even listening to the voices anymore. It was contented with his own words after a while. He kept trying to drag his arms above his head to drag himself further along through the tunnels. It still remained pitch black. Nothing could be seen. Eventually, it fell silent. Gold's body was working against his mind. It couldn't keep up with the amount of blood beginning to lose to the point as he dropped out of consciousness. His laugh kept going through. He kept going. He managed to stand up and laugh loudly, walking forward again as he seemingly got his energy back. He didn't speculate how something like that extravagant could happen. He skipped forward again, with it laughing and convincing himself that he was the best, only to realize that if he looked behind him, his body was on the floor, cut and bloody. Gold's new body was white with red eyes. He didn't even notice he was skipping, but hovering over across the ground. He was too mixed up with himself that he believed that he was okay. Gold wandered around the tunnels for the rest of his days. He wasn't even seen by his friends ever. There was a rescue party at one point to look for him, but there was no sign of him whatsoever. The hole that he had fallen through, that was gone, sealed back up somehow. No one knew where he had gone. No one will ever know the fate of Gold. But some still claimed that at night in Mount Silver, they could hear a childish laugh emanating from the tunnels, and a certain someone telling themselves, "It's going to be all right."